welcome back to Beyond the Gate, our Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood podcast. I'm Megan.
And I'm Meg.
And today we have an episode that we are super excited about and we've been waiting for basically since the start.
Yes.
This is episode 19, Death of the Undying.
Yes. And in this episode, Mustang, Alphonse, Havoc, and Hawkeye split up to search a military laboratory. If Lust has her way, none of them will ever see each other alive again.
Yes, and this covers manga chapter 38, Signal to Strike, 39, Complications at Central, and a brief part from chapter 41 on the palm of an arrogant human being. And it's action-packed and exciting, and it's a very important episode for the story.
Yes, and let's just jump right in, because otherwise we will be talking forever. So, right before the intro, we kind of get the last scene from the previous episode with Gluttony attacking Riza, just so we know where everything is at. And then we go back to Ling explaining Mustang's plan to Alan Winry as how he was going to draw out the people who killed Hughes. And Al decides to join Mustang in figuring out who these people are. And I think he was kind of mean for this because he doesn't really know the answer, but he promises to tell Ling his secret of his immortality when he gets back. And then also he leaves Winry behind. Of course. Doesn't want her to.
Yeah, poor Winry. She understands. She understands, but it's still sad. And Ling's just there too, because the reason he was in the room from the last episode was he helped Mustang and bury the chopper, and in return, Al was supposed to tell him the secret to immortality. And well, Ed's the one who put Al's soul in the armor, so he would be the best person to ask. And both Ed and Al know that's not immortality, so that's Ling is kind of grasping at straws here.
Yeah, but he's desperate. But then we go back to the scene, to Gluttony and Riza, and it's not looking so good because Riza's all out of ammo, and Gluttony's holding her, by the throat, and he's gonna eat her, and it's very terrifying. But then Black Coyote comes to the rescue. He attacks Gluttony, and Gluttony I don't know, he kind of drops or throws Riza against the wall, and then Fury arrives, and he's honestly I feel like he's sometimes an underrated character because he
needs more credit here.
Yeah, he's pretty awesome. He arrives and gives her a gun, and they fire all the rounds on Gluttony, but nothing happens, and they're very confused because they have no idea what is happening. And Gluttony is just very excited to eat them. But then there's this huge burst of flame that sends Gluttony flying out the window, and we see that Mustang has arrived.
Yeah,
in style. Riza immediately calls him an idiot for leaving his post, because the point of their whole mission is that he can stay in the shadows, and nobody, the government won't know, or the military won't know that he's involved with this, which is why they have code names. And
but he knew that they were in trouble. There was no way he was going to leave them behind, and he does. You see it in the beginning scene where he's he's using the code name and he's calling to Elizabeth and he's saying, "Hey, what's going on?" And he briefly thinks about Hughes dying alone in that phone booth, and he's like, "I'm not going to let any more of my comrades die, if I can help it." And and he would feel very responsible for their deaths in this instance too.
Yep. And then it's kind of cute because they both, Mustang and Riza, tell Fury to stay put and start cleaning up, and they order Black Coyote to stay with them. They're gonna go after Barry's body, and then after they leave, there's kind of a sweet moment because Riza thanks Mustang for saving them. Then they get back to their mission. chasing Barry's body. Mustang, Riza, and Havoc all jump in the car, and that's when Al arrives, and he asks to join them, and he jumps in. It's funny because he totally like squishes Havoc in the back seat, because his body's so big. He's like, "I'm sorry." Then Barry's soul, he runs past, chasing his body, and they go speeding after him. And they're, talking in the car, and Riza's super confused by what happened with Gluttony because she literally like unloaded all her weapons into him, and he was totally fine. And that's when Al tells them about the homunculi, and it's pretty funny because then like we see like they have like a shot like outside the car, and everybody's face is like they're shocked. Riza, of course, like believes him right away because she saw it happen. And it's kind of funny because the Mustang is like, wait, does that mean Fat Boy that I turned into a puddle is still alive? And then we see Gluttony reforming. And yes, he is still alive.
Of course he is.
Yep. It's not going to be that easy to get rid of the villains. We're only on episode 19. And then I don't know, it must be like the end of the day because it's like nightfall when they arrive at the third laboratory. And that's where Barry's body has headed into. And then I don't know, I found this kind of funny. Like we see like the classic where like everybody's like heads like appear around the corner, like one on top of the other, like being like there he went. And
it's very
at first,
Scooby-Doo-esque.
yeah, it is. trying to keep the serious situation humorous.
Yeah.
And at first, Mustang is not going to go inside, but Barry ruins that plan. He just runs inside and he's like, I've got me a special reunion to get to. He's
still proving he's got his own agenda, even if he is cooperating with them.
He's very excited about chopping up his own body. Which honestly, like Loki, if I was in his situation,
it'd be like, my body's not allowed to run free without me.
Yeah, yeah. I might be kind of like him. I wouldn't necessarily want to chop up my own body, but be very curious.
I'd want to capture myself so I could somehow reinsert my soul into my body and hopefully live a somewhat normal life.
Yeah, but his body's pretty gross, so
yeah.
I don't know. I maybe would want to try to figure out some way to I don't know. I wonder if you could like freeze his body and then like try to replace like all his organs and like put it back together and then reinsert my soul.
Or you could freeze his body, hit him with whatever they use in Dr. Stone to petrify people, and then he'll be healed when he breaks out.
Perfect. Sounds like a good plan to me.
Need a crossover here.
Yep. Anyway, Barry rushes in, and this is like the perfect opening for Mustang's gang to rush in, and they like we're chasing, this crazy killer. And also they clear the building, and then Havoc and Mustang and Riza and Al, they split up to search for Barry. And also, I don't know, I think kind of snoop around.
Yeah. I like how Riza goes with Al. It's I think they have a good dynamic. And I remember in the manga reading, and Al kind of asks her, hey, I'm not getting in the way, am I? Because he's technically not military. And Riza says, no, your alchemy's been very helpful. Thank you for coming with us. So I think Al getting that validation was perfect. That was needed.
Yeah. And then we see Havoc and Roy. They find this abandoned room that looks very sketchy. It looks like some not fun things were going on in there. And then we see Lust appears from the darkness, and Havoc is very shocked because it's Solaris, his girlfriend.
This poor guy.
Yeah, he doesn't have any luck. First, he had to break up with his girlfriend when he moved from the Eastern Command Center to Central, and now his other girlfriend, his new girlfriend, is seems to be evil. Yeah. Yep. Mustang like immediately asks about Hughes, and Lust like kind of says something snippy like, he was too smart, or I don't know. She said this
He
in the
was
manga.
a
I
smart
don't I
one.
Yeah, I don't know if she said this in the anime, but in the manga she said like I wish I could have killed him myself or something like that.
Yes, yeah, she says it with
Um
like a merciless look in her
yeah,
eye.
yep, and then Mustang shoots her in the leg and it heals right away. He shoots her multiple times, like in the chest and the face because he's kind of angry. Um
And maybe
and
even a
it
little scared because they just fought
Yeah, that
Gluttony,
too.
so he's
Yeah,
like,
that
these
too.
people can't be killed. I'm going to try my very best to shoot her in vitals and
Mhm.
see if that works at all.
Mhm. It's also, I don't know, it's kind of interesting too. I feel like usually we see him immediately go to his alchemy, but he doesn't in
Yeah,
this situation. I think part of it is because it was a really small room. So,
yeah. He might
uh
end up hurting Havoc.
yeah. Yeah. But then Lust does something I always find it really gross and creepy, like when villains do this, she like licks the blood off her lips. Like and then as like she's healing, and then she basically tells them everything about her, about the homunculi, and she like cuts open her own chest to show that she has a philosopher's stone in her core. Um, and that's her heart. That's what's keeping her
Which is a
alive.
classic villain move to be like, this is how you
Yeah.
shall kill me, but you won't. And she's toying with them,
Yeah.
which I
Mm-hmm.
think is so dumb. Like, keep all your cards hidden, lady.
Yeah. Villains are always some of the smartest but
She
dumbest people ever.
she probably
Cause,
has a
cause they just
reason for
like
saying that, but I don't
I don't
know.
know. It always annoys me so much when they're that, and then when they go on their big
Monologues.
monologues
You
about
caught
why they're
me
doing everything.
monologuing.
But I guess I do get it because I mean she's not human, but most villains that are human they just want to be understood, and they
Yeah,
want everybody to know why they're doing what they're doing, because then like
because
if
then
if
their reasoning is justified, and
yeah.
all the things they've done can all relate to that, I guess. Yeah,
Mhm.
but with Lust, I mean, if you want to give her reasoning, she's got a little more depth in the 2003 version, and you can see she actually wants to be human, but
Mhm.
that's not the case in this one. And
Uh, yeah,
I
I
don't
mean
know.
I don't know because she does immediate like after she shows them the Philosopher's Stone, they're like kind of horrified. Then she's like she does immediately kind of say like she is human. She has feelings. Um, I see you caught the
She's just
same
a little,
thing that I see the
yeah,
same. You caught the same thing that I did in the manga.
right.
You
I
can.
mean, she's human. She says she's human, claims to be human, with a few differences, and admittedly to her upgrades. But in the manga,
Mhm.
she also says we have the same love for the parents that gave birth to us.
Yes, and if you remember, there is a father in these homunculi's lives. So that was an interesting statement. But after her big speech, she immediately goes on the offensive and she like cuts Mustang's gun and like breaks it, and she also wounds him a little bit in the face. He scratches him in the face, um, and then also like cuts the pipes above them, which releases water and like soaks Mustang's gloves so that he's quote unquote useless. Um,
We'll
and
see how useless he is.
yes, Havoc and Mustang like run out of the room,
It's kind of funny. They're
and
shrieking and running at
yeah.
the same time.
Um, and then Havoc's like, "What are we gonna do?" He's freaking out, and Mustang just he is delighted because Lust has filled the room with hydrogen, which she can make hydrogen gas, which is highly flammable. And so he does that, and Havoc immediately, I don't know, he knows what to do. He throws
Yeah,
his lighter
he's
into the
awesome.
room, and it just explodes.
This scene made me remember that Roy can do alchemy in general. Like for some
Mhm.
reason, my brain was like, "Oh, it's just flame alchemy, limited to that But no, he's got that base of knowledge like Ed and Al do, the principles and the
Hmm.
basics of, deconstructing, reconstructing, and manipulating matter.
Yeah, he's a very, very powerful alchemist because he also, I mean, we've already seen he made that fake body for Maria.
Yeah.
And yeah, I always forget that he can do normal
I'm
alchemy, you
impressed
know.
with the mangaka coming up with this stuff too. Like, oh
Hmm.
no, the room is flooded with
Yeah.
water. He's a flame alchemist. What does he do? Creates hydrogen bombs. And yeah, it's very
Yeah.
smart.
Yeah, it's really interesting. Good. I don't know. I'm always impressed with writers who have to like use a lot of scientific or medical
Hmm.
terminology in their writing because it's like or even like history too. Like they have to do a lot of research and I always find that very impressive. It makes me like that seems like a lot of work too.
And my browser history would be
Yeah,
trashed.
yep. That as well. Mine is already trashed, so
Yeah, me too.
whatever. Um, so after the big explosion, Roy and Havoc go back in the room, and Roy at first, okay, in the anime, he's like pretty convinced that she's dead, but in the manga, he's not as sure. Like I remember him being like, "Be careful, we don't know how good her regenerative abilities are." But then he's pretty convinced that she's dead because he knows the smell of a burnt body, and Havoc asks about if it's because of Ishbal, which implies that he wasn't there, which I found interesting because like he had already mentioned that he was that Havoc mentioned that he had like seen combat in the last I think it was the last episode.
One of them.
Yeah, which do you want to just let's just talk about our theories now because
Oh yeah, sure. We
um
had a theory that Havoc was stationed somewhere besides Ishval. So maybe
yeah
one of the other countries, because they mention a couple that we never get to see in the show, unfortunately, because there's just not enough
yeah well
time.
I was gonna I agree that I think it's he was probably saw combat like they earlier in another episode they mentioned that there's like been a bunch of skirmishes with like other countries, so I assume he was like at the border um of one of those, and that's when he saw it, but he wasn't in Ishbal. Anyway, something interesting to think about.
Yeah. And going back to them thinking that Lust is dead, in the manga, it's a good quote. It's smart, but it's also kind of disgusting. And I
Hmm.
feel really bad for Roy because he knows a body has been burnt and there's the smell. But he also says when people are incinerated, the fat from their bodies disperses in the air. I know when a freshly burned body is near because my lips get sticky from the fat.
Yeah, that's
No
so
thanks.
so gross. Um,
I think I'd run from the room and hurl.
yep. Wiping my lips off.
But there's no escape from that. I mean, okay, I used
Yeah.
to work in a kitchen, and when grease is in the air, you can feel it all over you. There's no getting away from
Hmm.
it.
Yeah. I mean, that's basically what it is. Ugh, gross. Okay. But then, of course, while they're searching for her, Lust starts to reform, and she like knifes um Havoc from behind, which in the manga it's actually from the front.
Hmm.
Um, and then I don't know, he's like totally out of commission. He's laying in a pool of his own blood. Clearly he has been severely injured. Mustang is so angry. It's one of the grossest, but also the most epic things ever. He rips the philosopher's stone right out of her chest, um, and he's gonna use it to save Havoc. Um,
And something I think is equally as gross and creepy is just as he's about to use it and save Havoc's life, Lust starts reforming around the stone in his hand, so his hand is like inside her while she's forming. Nasty.
yep, yeah, but it's all I don't know, so epic. It's so hardcore to do that, and also just shows how much he cares about his subordinates because
Yeah.
he's like willing to do that to save Havoc. But doesn't work. Lust reforms and stabs him in the side. And then she just leaves him to die. Another
Villain mistake number 2.
classic villain mistake. You
Yep.
always wait until you're 100% sure that they are dead.
She's trying to be merciless. She wants
Yeah.
him to be alive so he can watch Havoc bleed out, and then he will bleed out because his wound is on a less vital area.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So she leaves, but then we see that there's more trouble afoot. The Fuhrer has arrived to give backup. Of course, the soldiers assume it's for Mustang and his crew, but we know that he's there to give backup to Lust. So Al and Riza have found Barry and Barry has cut up his body. It's actually not, I don't know, honestly, Loki, I was unimpressed because he just like he didn't actually chop up the body. He just like
there was lots of cuts and gashes, but
he just gave lots of cuts. Like I expected to see full dismembering. Like
I'm not sure if he really felt.
Didn't want to see,
but you expected.
I expected.
He might have felt a little disappointed though, because like he seems kind of depressed when Riza and Al get there. He's like, "You're too late," and the body's on the ground, and he's like, "Look at this thing. It wasn't going to last much longer anyway." And it's because his body has not been taken care of. It's got a false soul in it, and it's just rotting, basically. Yeah, he doesn't hardly look human anymore.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it was that he was kind of disappointed. And that's also, as Barry is saying, his body was weak because it didn't have the right soul in it. Al realizes that his own soul bonded to the suit of armor might not last as long as they need it to, which is kind of a bad realization to make, but also good because gotta kind of ups the stakes a little bit.
It makes him more motivated to find his body ASAP.
Yeah.
ASAP.
And then Lust arrives, and she is kind of angry at Barry. She confronts him about switching sides. And Barry's just kind of like, I thought it'd be fun to switch things up.
He's awesome.
Yeah.
And I forget he's a serial killer sometimes because he's funny.
He was kind of also sick of taking orders from them.
Yeah, they were controlling everything about his life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. She kind of, Lust makes a comment about like, oh, now I have to kill a second candidate because she sees that Al is there. But then after she says this, Barry's like, I want to chop you up, and he like runs towards her, and she immediately like just slashes into pieces, and he's kind of out of commission.
Barry, no. Everyone is sad at that part. Like,
yeah,
no matter how you feel about Barry, I feel he just kind of worms his way into your heart a little bit.
Yeah, he does. It is kind of sad. You're like, no, it wasn't supposed to be this way. I'm supposed to join the crew.
He was supposed to get reformed. I don't know.
I don't know if he seemed too crazy to me.
No, he was too far gone.
Yeah. After Barry is gone, Riza kind of understands what Lust is saying, that Mustang is dead. And she immediately yells something very passionately. We will not repeat it, but
we don't want to get an E for explicit.
Yes. But honestly, I was like, yes. You know, it was the way she said it. It was a good.
Her scream of pure rage. I know Meg is a fan of when characters get real mad and take action, so I felt it too.
Yeah, and she just starts shooting Lust excessively. She like pulls 3 guns out on her.
She empties all the chambers into the
yeah, it's insane. But then like she is also crying at the same time. It's really sad. And after she runs out of ammo, Lust just like reforms, and I don't know, she's like, honestly, she's the worst because she's just like, just another typical human, so pathetic. And Riza just kind of slumps to the ground and is ready to give up. She's just devastated about Mustang being gone. But Al, trusty old Al, he steps in and he's gonna protect Riza. He makes a spear and it is immediately destroyed.
As
But
it
also,
happens in this show.
yes, but Les does make a comment like, "Oh, I see you have opened the portal and you have seen the truth." But then, Al is not going to give up, so Lust like cuts him up or starts to cut him up, and Al tries to get Riza to get out of there, but she won't leave. She's kind of completely given up. And Riza also tries to convince Al to leave, but Al, he gives this awesome speech and he's not, I'm not going to let another person that I care about die. Which I really liked because I don't know, he's making the same resolution as Ed, and it's just they're both on the same page. They're just
They're always on the same page.
yeah, they're just two great brothers.
It's like the twin telepathy, but they're a year apart.
Yeah. And after he makes his big speech, someone from behind says, "Well spoken. I couldn't agree more." And we see Mustang. And I love this. Al immediately makes a wall to protect Riza.
Because he knows Roy is about to go ham.
Yeah, yep. And we see Mustang, he has cauterized his wound. He has carved a transmutation circle into his hand, and he is holding a lighter. And honestly, like,
it's Havoc's lighter.
Yeah, he looks just totally epic in this moment. I love
Plus
it
his abs
so
are
much.
showing.
That too. But he looks amazing, and I love it. And he just, he, like Megan said, he goes ham. He just burns Lust over and over. He is determined to destroy her. The whole scene is just amazing. Just the
That gives you chills.
screaming. Yeah, the screaming. Honestly, it's so hard to listen to. Like, you can feel the pain. Mustang's like intense looks and like his just focus and determination, and then Lust's body like reforming like over and over, but it's just keeps getting burned. Like, there's no relief. And also, like, during this scene, Riza is yelling at him to stop. I don't know if it was because she didn't want him to go, like, she saw that he might be going too far, or like, just
because he's injured already. He shouldn't be
he's already
taxing
injured.
himself.
Probably a little bit of both, honestly.
I mean, like, Mustang is putting himself right into the thick of it again, where knowing that Lust can reform, he is in immediate danger. As like, if she gets to him, it's all over. She won't let him, bleed out this time. She's gonna make it quick.
Yep. After what feels like many, many burnings, Lust shoots out one of her spear fingers, and it's so close to him, but we see it disintegrate into
it's so cool. It's
nothing.
Less than an inch away from his forehead. She almost got him.
Yep. And she's like, there's worse ways to die than at the hands of a man like you. And she turns to dust, including her Philosopher's Stone. So we know she's
gone.
Dead.
I didn't think it was possible. First time we watched this, I was like, are you sure?
Yeah. But the Philosopher's Stone is the key.
Yeah.
And then Mustang immediately collapses. But it's so sweet because he's only concerned about everyone else being all right. And then we see the Fuhrer has seen what has happened, and he does nothing. He just walks away.
Yeah.
And that's the end. That's kind of the end of that scene. We don't go back to Havoc, so we don't know what has happened to him.
But Roy
Um,
made sure to say, call an ambulance for Havoc. Like, he is not
yeah,
concerned with his well-being. He's all about, like, you gotta help
everyone
Havoc first.
else,
He's
yeah.
more hurt than I am.
Yeah, that whole scene, which we also, oh, I just, I get so excited every time I watch that. But uh, one thing we didn't mention right away, which we should have, is that the room that they were in, was very strange because it was just like, there was just a door and then it had like that strange symbol that's kind of similar to the one that we've seen at the fifth laboratory and then also, in Xerxes. So.
Hmm. Yeah. And it's also just a blank white room.
Yeah,
And
it's very strange. But anyway, Winry is waiting for Al to come back outside. She's very concerned, and then he appears out of the darkness. He's missing half of his face, and he's pretty beat up. And she's immediately like, "You idiot!" And then, but
you
she's
idiot,
very
welcome
glad.
back.
Yeah, she's very glad to see him. And then his arm falls off. And it's so cute because he's like, my arm's off. I can't get it to stay on.
I think after a day like he's had, the one thing that sets him off, it's like not a huge deal compared to everything else he's been through, but he needed some way to let out all that pent-up emotion. So
mm,
it's like, my arm fell off. I'm panicking now.
yeah, it's I don't know. I feel like that always happens when you've just had like a really bad day and just like things on top of things is like piling up and then like it's just that one little thing that seems insignificant that just like sets you off.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I feel like that out. I understand
That's
Al in
very
that moment.
common.
Yeah,
Yes, yes.
yeah. But anyway, Winry is glad to see that he is back. And then we go back to Barry. It turns out he is not dead yet.
Yay.
And he's like, somebody reform me. Like, where is everybody? But then Barry's body, he didn't should have chopped him up. Should have chopped him up. Because his body gets up and it's very interested in his soul and it like scratches his soul bond off and Barry's soul re-enters his body and he
And
dies.
dies. Bye,
Yeah.
Jerry Jewel. We hardly knew you.
Uh, uh, he'll be missed.
Yes.
And then the last scene in the episode, we finally see Ed again. He hasn't been in this episode at all so far. He's saying goodbye to Armstrong and Breda, and he's going to visit. Well, he doesn't say it, but in the manga, he says he's going to visit Winry's parents' grave, and he sees somebody standing at his mother's grave, and he is shocked. He gets flashbacks of a man, and it's his father, and all he says is Hohenheim, and the episode ends.
Yeah. A lot happened, and
Yes.
I'm kind of sad Ed wasn't there with Al for all of that, but at the same time, he had his own adventure solo, so Al kind of needed his own thing, and Al really, really stepped up.
He did. Al
best
was,
boy.
Yeah, he was awesome. Just like,
Yeah.
I think my favorite, he did a lot of awesome things, but I think my favorite thing is he immediately like transmuting that wall to protect
Yeah.
his.
One of my favorite things is that people take this still image all the time, but it's when Al's holding up his arm.
Oh, yeah.
And Les is scratched through, but he's like, oh, it's very
I love that.
epic.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, speaking of epic things, so we only have one voice actor note, but it's a pretty big deal. So we're going to cover who played Lust, and that was Laura Bailey, who's kind of a big name in voice acting. She was Toru Honda from Fruits Basket. Yay! Toru! Which is one of the most solid female leads I've seen, especially in anime where females aren't often represented correctly. Sorry.
That was hilarious how you said that.
I have betrayed my people.
Yeah.
She also plays Lucina from Fire Emblem, another awesome female character. and she plays Maka Alburn from Soul Eater. So Laura Bailey, she has won numerous awards for her voice acting, and I would hope that this episode factored into people's decisions, especially for like Voice Actress of the Year awards, because when she did the screams for her death scene, you could feel it to the core of your body.
Yep. Yeah, that was honestly so impressed. And also this was probably one of the first times where it was like, wow, voice actors, they're pretty awesome. Like this was the first time where I started to really pay attention.
Yeah, especially for a
Yeah.
dub, because she had to line up with, when Lust was screaming in the original. Yeah, there's a lot to say about her, and I would love to meet her someday. And she, her performance in this one made me actually feel bad for Lust, which is saying something, because
Yeah.
honestly, Lust was probably one of my least favorite characters, and when she was gone, I was like, yeah, I don't have to stare at her and her stupid outfit anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. I was happy to be rid of her.
Yeah. She was just like, not that girls can't wear low-cut dresses, but hers was, very uncomfortable feeling for me.
Yeah, I didn't love it. I mean, literally her name is Lust. So like
Yeah, what was I expecting?
I would expect nothing less.
Yes.
But yeah, I didn't love it,
And,
especially in this episode in particular. It was like especially just like why? That's
disturbing.
why.
Okay, so
Yeah.
for our listeners, you might get this rant a lot, but Meg and I like to rant about the representation of females, especially in anime. It covers all media. American shows aren't exactly the greatest at it either, but women are very much objectified a lot in these types of shows. But moving on from that, here's an ironic fact for you, but Laura Bailey, Lust, is married to Travis Willingham, Mustang.
Yes, I love that so much. They weren't married, I think, when they dubbed this,
When he killed
but
her.
yeah. The so it's so funny.
And they've done a lot of projects together, and they were friends before, it seems like, and it's really cute.
It's cute if you can find. Maybe you can put that.
Yeah,
Megan
I've got some voice
sent me a clip
acting
of
clips.
like talking about how they met. So maybe you should put that on our channel.
Yeah, I like when voice actors are married. Like, Chrome's voice actor from Dr. Stone is married to Yuzuriha's voice actor from Dr. Stone, so they get to, I mean, they get to talk about their work together too, and I think that's a very special thing to be able to share.
Yeah, I think there's something to like being married to someone who's like in your field, because then they
they understand.
Yeah.
And then we'll move on to some of our tracking things, which I just had such a terrible time of this. Thanks for making me do that, Meg.
You were the one that wanted to do this thing in particular. I remember that.
Yep. I'm kidding. It's on me. But for homunculus dying, our track records for the homunculi deaths, Gluttony died at least 18 times because they used up 3 guns on him, and we'll assume that the minimum they could carry was 6 bullets each. It was probably more than that, but there's no way I can possibly calculate everything if some of the shooting happened off screen. And Lust died 1 time by multiple shots from Mustang. I'm counting that as 1 because he hit her in quick succession. So if somebody wants to go back and actually count all of those shots, be my guest. She also died 1 time in the explosion he and Havoc created. 1 time by a shotgun that Mustang pulled out of nowhere. 1 time when Mustang rips out her heart. At least 18 times by Riza's rapid fire. And at least 8 times when Roy shot fire at her. This number is definitely not exact.
Yeah, but just insane. And also, like, they already said that they can feel. So, and also just it's clear that she's in agony. So, like, that's horrible. That's just terrible. But also, like, I don't feel that bad because she's a pretty awful villain. And she's not really, has she has no soul. She's not really
Right.
a human,
And
so
she's got the regenerative abilities, so if she
mm.
gets shot, it heals right away. She's not going to have that lasting sting or burn.
Yeah, it's just like the more honestly, the the gunshots probably aren't the worst. It's probably the burning that was really
Because that,
painful.
oof.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yep.
All right. And then animation expertise, I wrote down because I mean there's so much. The anatomy people need to know to deconstruct and reconstruct the homunculi every time they die and reform. Like Lust getting burnt and then just growing her skin back and her hair back. And especially like her final death when it just fades away to bones and they just crackle and float away. There's also the fire effects, which was so cool. Alphonse's cool pose and him like getting beat up and just his movement. And the kind of sketchy animation that happened when Lust was burning. It was very
Yeah,
fluid
I liked that.
and quite scary, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, it was. It was honestly, it's kind of hard to listen to and also to watch,
Yeah,
but it's
yeah.
so cool also. Yeah.
And I don't think we have any scientific analysis or philosophical analysis for this one. There was
No,
just
not this time.
so much.
This episode is just so awesome. We don't need to add extra things.
No, it's more of like just watch an experience and
Mm,
try to process as best you can.
yeah. Yep.
But story elements analysis, there was the death of a villain, a pretty major player in this story. It's a big moment, especially if the villain reveals important information, which Lust did about how homunculi operate. Challenges a character in a big way. Again, she did that, and or reveals a sad backstory. Did not do that in this one. 2003, kind of. So, yeah. But no real backstories here quite yet for the homunculi.
All right. Well, that was kind of the end of the episode. Honestly, it's definitely one of my favorites in the whole
Yeah.
show.
I've got another one in mind, but this one is
me too.
up top.
Yeah, there's a few that you'll know when our favorite episodes come up. And they're probably your favorite episodes too. Yeah, so Megan, what was your favorite line of the episode?
Mine was Al's little speech he gives when Riza is telling him to run away. He says, I won't leave you. I'm sick of watching people die, and I can't just sit back and take it anymore. I won't let anyone else get killed, not when I can protect them. And it's even more impactful because while he's saying this, you get little flashes of like Nina, Hughes, Martle even, which I'm very impressed that he still feels bad about her. Like,
Yeah.
he hardly knew her and he feels guilt over her death.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
Good
What was
call.
your favorite line?
So I didn't pick my favorite line for this episode because I have two favorite lines, but neither of them are that appropriate. For your first, the one that is spoken by Riza, I love it. And then also when Mustang is talking to Havoc about his choice in girlfriends, I just
That was a
made
very
me laugh.
lewd comment.
Yes, I won't be
I
repeated
think
here.
it was the delivery. He said it very funny.
Yeah, it was pretty great. And it's pretty funny in the manga too. And Havoc's response. Anyway, but one of my other favorite lines is Mustang. He says, "Havoc, you can't die, not before I do." And in that moment, you don't. It's more obvious in the manga, but he's thinking about Hughes. He says more in the manga. He doesn't want his friends to die, and I like that. I like that about Mustang. All right. What was the moral of the episode?
Don't sit back when you can change something. Be an active part of the solution.
Yes, and I would say everyone in this episode was pretty active, and especially Al, he was he didn't want to sit back and watch others die for him, and Mustang too.
Yeah,
Kind of in the same boat as Al,
I
both
think,
fighting to protect the people that they care about.
yeah, I was the most impressed with Mustang given that he cauterized his own wound and came back with a
Mm,
vengeance. But
yes.
Al definitely, I think, was the most solid, protector. Because Roy was the fighter and Al was the defender.
Yep. And then who pushed the story forward?
Mustang, because he literally killed one of the villains. And then we also had to say Lust, because in a way, um, she pushed the story forward by explaining how the homunculi function.
Mm-hmm. Yes, which is very important. All right. Well, that's it for this episode.
We didn't give Barry the Chopper his
No.
last who pushed the story forward. We're
Well,
gonna miss you.
it could be argued that he did a little bit because he did rush in to the building, and if he hadn't done that,
He made the
then
excuse for them, yeah.
yeah. So
Honorable mention.
we'll give him that. Yeah.
Okay. He needs one last thing before he goes.
Yep. Oh, that's so sad. But also not that sad.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks for listening. Follow us on Instagram and check out our YouTube channel and send us an email or a DM. We would love to hear from you guys, especially your thoughts on this episode or any other things that you noticed. We would love to hear it. We will be back next week with another episode.
All right.